shoulder down and shift. There it is. Down the fairway, long, accurate, almost the perfect drive. Now, if you struggle with driver, I know what you're thinking. What did Ali just say? Because I need a bit of that. I need those drives longer and straighter than ever before. And today's video is very much inspired by a mid-handicapper that came to see me who was really struggling with his driver, hitting pulls and slices, and kind of felt like he didn't know where to aim. Well, we gave him 2 steps to work on with his driver, 2 simple little thoughts that absolutely transformed his driving. And if you work through this video, we'll do exactly the same for you. So when my pupil was in with me last week, kind of a very similar story to I'm sure a lot of you golfers watching, said that he fell iron shots from the ground, really solid, knew where it was going, but driver, kind of a lottery for him. He'd set up to the golf ball, felt like he was making a good swing, you know, like he'd been working on for driver, but ultimately felt he could stand up and sometimes get that one in play, but kind of felt it didn't really go anywhere. But all too often, he said he felt that he had a big pull or a big miss out to the right. And as he was swinging, what we noticed, and we pull that last swing up on TrackMan there, we noticed that his club path was double digits out to in. And then it depended really how good he was managing the club face. So that last one there, 11 degrees out to in, 7.5 degree open club face. So the danger was that when he swung on that path and squared the club face up, that was his big miss. And if he left the club face more open, the ball set off right and cut. But he just felt like he had to manage that so much that it was really, really difficult. So he was, I wouldn't say obsessed, but was really, really keen that we change the path of the club. Now, for anyone watching who's not sure, what is the path of the club? So it's just simply the direction that the club is moving at impact with the golf ball. And it can only do one of 3 things. It can either be moving straight, it can be moving left, which will be out to in, or it can be moving over to the right. Now, most golfers will say that they swing out to in, so left. So the first thing we have to understand is why the pupil was doing that. So he generally gets set up pretty well to the golf ball, but was very aware that he wanted to hit the ball further, so that he needed to try and get the club moving up, get his low point behind. So what he tended to do was make his backswing, kind of stay on that back foot, and as he turned his body, we could see the club would get thrown out, but the key was that right shoulder was staying very high, and he was really getting trapped on his back foot. So we gave him a 2-step thought process. And it doesn't necessarily, for me, matter which way you do it, but I'm going to explain the way he did it, and as you work through the video, you might change the order. So the first thing we said to him was, from here, we're going to make our backswing as normal, but we want to think about that right shoulder going down at the start of the downswing. And we can notice straight away, if the right shoulder moves out and up, the club thrown out, but when the right shoulder moves down, the club drops down, and there's probably a little bit better opportunity to swing from the inside. So the first thing we said to him was, right, let's just focus initially on right shoulder down. So he made a couple of practice swings, and his instant feedback was, he said he felt like the club was much further away from him on the way through, rather than being very, very close to him, so quite like that. So we said, right, stand up to begin with, and let's make the swing right shoulder down to start the downswing. Now, that was actually very much what we saw, and the TrackMan numbers were very, very different. We suddenly saw the path going from kind of double digits minus, which was left, to very, very slightly to the right, so we can see there 2.2 degrees. And interestingly, the low point moved behind the golf ball, which meant the club was travelling up. So obviously in the session, we weren't just doing this with 1 or 2 swings. We did probably a good half dozen, trying to feel that when we got to the top, right shoulder down. Now, even though the shots were better, he instantly said kind of feels like there's no speed as to in the downswing. Therefore, I feel it's costing me some distance doing that. And comment below. I know a lot of you might say, I don't mind being cost a bit of distance if I'm in play, but for me, if we can get both, well, that's the perfect thing. So what we said is, right, and the way he generates his speed in his golf swing with his irons is he gets to the top and he shifts really, really hard. But he said he knows that he wants low point ahead and hitting down. So I said, right, so let's try then. We get to the top, right shoulder starts moving down, shift aggressively towards a target. And straight away, he said, well, that feels loads quicker, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with my path when I swing quicker. Maybe I revert to type. So I said, look, you're with me, nice safe environment. Let's make some swings and let's see what happens. So he set up and we just had him aiming straight to begin with. And we said, right, so right shoulder down and shift. And straight away there was a very, very different shot. So we saw low point behind, path very, very neutral. That's come a little bit out of the toe, which is why it's reading as open. But we saw a big pickup and very, very accurate. Now, his initial comment was, okay, I'm not hitting up, but I'm not getting my low point way ahead like I was before, even though I feel like as I go down and shift, I feel like my low point would be ahead, which would cost him distance. Now, I said, it doesn't work like that. When you're hitting a lot of your irons, the ball's very, very central or slightly forward. When we've got driver set up, the ball's much further forward. Therefore, you're kind of much more behind the ball to begin with. I said, so when you right shoulder down, the club drops down. But as you drive the lower body, the upper body's still behind the ball, so the low point's behind and it gets hitting up. And it was almost like a light bulb moment. It was like, so dropping my right shoulder is going to improve my path. Shifting is going to improve my speed. Therefore, I'm going to hit the ball longer and straighter. Yes. Now, isn't that a lovely combination? So we kind of worked through, not really even feeling like he was trying to swing quickly, but just setting up, thinking right shoulder down and shift. Set up again. And again, we saw path from the inside. Low point actually started moving a bit further behind, hit up a bit more. And again, we saw great distance and good accuracy. So we probably did, in the lesson, about 10 swings where we saw more distance and more accuracy. But, and I'm sure you guys watching are the same, his next question was, I still feel there's loads more in the tank for that. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So what we need to do is really still focus on right shoulder down, but then we're going to shift aggressively, really aggressively towards the target. So we did a couple of practice swings. And his actual first comment was, I'm not even sure I'm going to make contact with it if I do that. I said, look, let's see. If doing that super aggressively doesn't work, we wouldn't use it. We might practice it to build it into our game, but we're not worried. So we're going to set up. And we felt that he was starting to draw the ball, if anything, rather than pulls and slices. So we aimed slightly right. And we said right shoulder down and shift super aggressively. And there it was. We saw low point move behind, club travelled up more, path from the inside, and his longest carry and longest rollout he'd ever had with driver. And it's interesting because I think so many golfers obsess about, that club moving that way and, how can I shallow it? Am I doing it with my wrists? There's lots of different ways of shallowing the golf club, but for this particular pupil, and if you guys watching this works for you, I'd love this to be the case. It was that once he got to the top, right shoulder starts working just straight down, shift really aggressively towards the target, and it changed his path, changed his delivery, started swinging it faster, and started hitting the longest and straightest drives he's ever hit. And I'd love you to work through the video, comment below and let me know if it's changed your driving. If it's changed your driving half as much as the pupil I had in the other day, it'll be an absolute game changer. And maybe, just maybe, driver will start becoming your favourite club in your bag.